His addiction couldn't be overcome by conventional rehab.
All I remember is I went through my closet door head first, and it felt like I was being electrocuted.
Find out how a change of scenery helped lead to a real restoration. Plus, New York Times bestselling author Joel Rosenberg joins us with his newest ripped from the headlines thriller. That and more on today's 700 Club Interactive. Well, welcome to the show. The American dream is rooted in the Declaration of Independence, which declares all men are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Gwar Maker is an example of someone living that American dream. Last month, after basic military training, Maker received an airman's coin, making him an airman first class. As an 8-year-old boy, Maker escaped the war-torn Sudan and immigrated to the United States. During his time in Sudan, he was enslaved twice and lost 28 family members, including 8 of his 9 siblings. Maker took advantage of his opportunity in the United States as he became an Olympic marathon runner in the 2012 and the 2016 Olympics before realizing his dream of serving in the U.S. military. Maker said, quote, "All of the things I've accomplished have derived from the opportunities the United States has afforded me. When I first came to America, I didn't have hardly anything. But with the support and opportunity this country has given me, I'm able to completely change my life."
Well, Maker now dreams of participating in the 2020 Olympics, where he would have the opportunity for the first time to represent the U.S. as a citizen. And what a wonderful story. There is definitely from slavery to 2-time Olympian, hopefully 3-time Olympian, and saying, I want to give back, I want to serve.
You know, you just sense in his comments the ability in America, when you have very little, to rise up if you're willing to take that journey. And boy, he has done it and done it well.
Yes, he has.
Commendable.
Well, heroes come in all shapes and sizes, and in the next story, the hero just happens to be furry. Rex is a German shepherd who protected his home and owner in a recent burglary and nearly gave his life. 16-year-old
Javier Mercado was home when 2 men broke into his house. Javier hid in a closet and called 911 while Rex confronted the crooks. Rex bit one of the men, who then opened fire on the dog. Javier said he could hear his dog crying, and the men escaped as they heard the approaching police sirens. Well, the family said it's a miracle Rex survived 3 bullets, and they're calling his heroics a blessing.
Rex, it's an angel. He's my 4-legs angel that we had at our house.
Just want to thank my dog. Man, if it wasn't for him, I feel like I wouldn't be standing here right now. No, they didn't hesitate shooting Rex. They didn't hold back on anything. And if Rex wasn't there, they would have opened that door and they would have saw me in there.
Rex suffered a tibia fracture, which required surgery and continued therapy and treatment for arthritis. However, all things considered, the family says Rex is recovering well. Boy.
Yeah, Rex is well named. That means
Yes,
king.
yeah.
Rex stands for king. And boy, is he ever a king.
He wins.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
And speedy recovery, Rex.
Yeah, talk about loyalty. Well, speaking of heroes, one young man's superhero hobby has turned into a career. Omar Masood has Down syndrome. Several weeks ago, Omar's parents opened a comic book shop, not just for his enjoyment, but for him to run as a business owner.
Well, Omar turns 22 in a couple of months and will age out of the educational program at his local high school. His parents recognized the lack of opportunities for disabled young adults and decided to encourage Omar's passion. And his parents are hoping to hire other people with disabilities and apply for nonprofit status. Well, store manager Sally Hoop says Omar's enthusiasm is infectious.
Omar is so passionate about everything in the store. He's super excited to come here every day. The customers love him. He loves the customers. You met Omar, so he's kind of hard not to love.
That's cool.
That is an awesome idea.
Yeah, more power to Omar, more power to his parents to recognize there's an opportunity here.
Yes.
How do we craft that? And I love the idea, not just for our son, but how do we open it up so we can hire more people with disabilities?
Exactly. Great idea. Well, we can't mention superheroes without discussing the superhero film that's taken the box office by storm. Forbes magazine projects that Black Panther will surpass $1 billion worldwide.
Well, professional athletes like New Orleans Pelicans guard Rajon Rondo have recognized the film's appeal and paid for numerous children in their hometowns to attend the movie free of charge. And then Dallas Mavericks star Harrison Barnes recently paid for 150 underprivileged children in Dallas to watch the film. Take a look.
If everybody can put their hands together and welcome Harrison Barnes from the Dallas Mavericks.
I want you guys all know that you guys can be the kings and queens that you guys are, that you guys should be, and that you guys will become. So hopefully you guys enjoy the movie, enjoy the popcorn, and have a good time.
Thank you.
I think the movie is becoming a defining moment in Black history, and it's a moment of empowerment. It's turning into a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just here in North America, but theaters are selling out throughout Africa, as well as the rest of the world. So to have $1 billion in box office receipts after just 3 weeks being released, it's beyond phenomenon at this point. And congratulations to the filmmakers. And more importantly, this is a marking point. This is a movie that will go down in history.
Yeah.
Well, coming up, his newest book is literally ripped from the headlines. New York Times bestselling author Joel Rosenberg is here to discuss his latest novel, The Kremlin Conspiracy. That's next. Don't go away. Well, just last week, Russian President Vladimir Putin declared Russia had developed an indefensible nuclear weapon. With one eye on ISIS and the other on North Korea, Putin's warning is concerning, to say the least. New York Times bestselling author Joel Rosenberg is not surprised. Take a look.
Joel Rosenberg has done it again. His newest political thriller, The Kremlin Conspiracy, feels ripped from tomorrow's headlines. With an American president distracted by North Korea and Iran, a czar is rising in Russia with a brazen plan that threatens NATO and could draw the U.S. into nuclear war. The Kremlin Conspiracy, from New York Times bestselling author Joel C. Rosenberg.
Joel's with us now, and I tell you, your timing is uncanny. How did you come up with the concept, and how did you meet this headline?
Right. Well, look, as you know, Gordon, I've been writing about the threat of radical Islam, and I've been doing it through novels to try to drive that into the popular culture, the understanding. I've been doing that for almost 17 years, and I just needed a professional, reshuffling of the deck. Radical Islam is evil, but it's not the only evil in the world, as we see in North Korea and elsewhere. So I was looking for a new threat to write about, a worst-case scenario, and my eye kept being drawn back to Vladimir Putin. Now, as you know, I'm Jewish on my father's side, and my father's family were Orthodox Jews that escaped out of Russia in the early years of the 1900s when Tsar Nicholas II was in power.
Yeah, the pogrom.
Yeah, 60,000 Jewish people murdered, many raped, beaten, tortured. It was horrible. We got out by God's grace. But ever since, part of our heritage, part of our DNA, I would say, is to keep an eye on the evil of the czars in the Kremlin. So I see in Putin someone who, though he was born and raised in the Soviet era, the communist era, while he was an operative in the KGB and eventually rose to the head of the modern KGB, known as the FSB, he's not a communist at heart. He is, I think he sees himself as a czar, someone trying to rebuild and expand the imperialist power of Russia. He feels humiliated by the collapse of the Soviet Union. He says it's the worst geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. Now, you and I could pick a few others, like the Holocaust, World War II itself, Cambodia, Rwanda. That someone thinks the collapse of the Eagle Empire is
the greatest liberation of the century.
Absolutely, it was. But
where you have a system that's failed and it needed to collapse, and freedom needed to come.
It's a window into his soul. That he thinks that this is a disaster and that he needs to rebuild the glory of Mother Russia. So with that premise, I began to ask myself, all right, what's let's imagine a worst case scenario for Putin. Now, I'm not going to call him Putin in the book. I'm going to take liberties. I'm going to make it a fictional character. He's not Putin, but Gordon, he's Putin-esque, right? There are elements of him that are consistent, but this allows me to create somebody and try to imagine where might they go next.
Well, it's interesting you point out Tsar, because the root of that, like Kaiser, is Caesar.
Yes.
And that is the root from which it's all springing. And in the Christian persecution of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd century, Caesar had to be worshipped as God, and that was the test. If you refused to worship Caesar as a god, you would be put to death, and the Christians couldn't do it. They would say, there's only one Lord, and his name is Jesus.
And this is what concerns me about Putin. It's not just that he's a threat to the NATO alliance in Europe. It's not just that he's a threat to Israel and others as he moves into Syria, working with Assad and the Iranians to slaughter hundreds of thousands of people and create a new Russian foothold in the Middle East. He's not just a threat to the United States with that terrible, most aggressive speech last week that he's given in 17 years. It just happens to be on the eve of my novel. I talk about collusion. I should be colluding. I mean, he's set up exactly what I'm trying to talk about with the Kremlin conspiracy. But there's more. 18 months ago, as you know, he outlawed the sharing of the gospel in Russia. You can no longer invite someone even to your home and share the gospel.
He did it with the support, oddly, of the Orthodox Church.
That's right. That's right. You can't invite someone to church. You can't email to someone to ask them to come. And you certainly can't have big evangelistic campaigns like Billy Graham, God bless him, did when God opened the door to the communist world for the gospel through Billy Graham.
Yeah. And so through Gorbachev.
Exactly. So we're at a moment where Vladimir Putin is not just a threat. He is much more dangerous than radical Islam. He has 7,000 nuclear warheads, and he's at war with the gospel. This is not a good combination. He's invaded Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, and he occupies 20%. He invaded southern Ukraine, and he occupies and now owns Crimea. He invaded eastern Ukraine, the Donbass region. He holds it still. And of course, Syria. The question is, where is he going next? And in this novel, I imagine a fictional Russian leader trying to do a lightning-fast grab of one or two or three of the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Why? Yeah, these are NATO allies.
I would say Ukraine.
Well, okay, he's already done that. But I think the question is, he may try to grab Ukraine, but what would be the reason to go grab a NATO country? The reason would be the gamble that in the end, the United States and NATO would not use military force. Right. And suddenly, if we did not, that's the end of NATO. And now the tyrant in Moscow suddenly is the most powerful man in the world. No one's standing up to him. He has nuclear weapons. He has ballistic missiles. And he would be sitting on top all the power in the world. That's the theory of the worst case scenario in the Kremlin conspiracy.
Do you see this rising not just in Russia, but are you concerned at all about what's recently happened with China, where they've gotten rid of term limits for the leader?
Right.
I thought what in the last century was called the cult of personality had been completely debunked, and they were going to election processes and let's have a regular changeover in leadership so we don't get into that. Right. But now the world seems to be completely turning the other way. That's right. Are we getting set up for dictators once again?
We are, and I think that's, I mean, you have that in North Korea, you have it in China, you have it in Russia. Look, China and North Korea are serious threats. I think China is a little bit longer term threat. What they're doing in the South China Seas is very, very dangerous. North Korea, of course, the leader is crazy, so anything could happen there. That's my next book. Literally, I'm writing it now. But right now, I think that the United States is so focused on China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and those are serious. I feel like Washington and Brussels it's as though they're not really taking seriously the Putin threat. And in fact, Putin's speech that was so aggressive last week, that's what he says. He said, he says, the world is not listening to me, And he says, you listen to me now, I am not bluffing. I feel like that for all his bravado, for all of his invasions of other countries, his knocking off opponents, or at least they just disappear, for all that he's done.
Assassination.
Yeah, exactly. It's just this morning, it seems to be, or yesterday. For all that, he feels like he's still not getting people's attention, and he seems to want it. And that is a dangerous place to be.
Well, as Christian, what should we do? In the book, you have your hero have a moral dilemma. You're facing genocide.
Right.
And you have an opportunity to take out the dictator.
I say Marcus Riker is a former Marine in the book. He's a former U.S. Secret Service agent. Everything he learned to protect our president will he now use to take out theirs.
Sort of the Bonhoeffer question.
It's a Bonhoeffer question. Is if you could take out Hitler, is that the right thing to do? We're not there yet. Two things. First, we need to be praying for the people of Russia. For the church in Russia. We need to not forget that war is not our first option. What we want is prayer, that God can change things. We need to pray for Putin. God says to pray for our enemies and for those who persecute us, so that would be him. God could change him, or he could remove him. I pray both. Lord, save him and remove him. But we also need to be praying for our leaders in Washington, particularly President Trump, who has a curious and I would say an unsettling relationship, and I don't mean personal, but I mean policy relationship with Putin. He set aside the issues of whether there's corruption or criminality. I hope not. I think probably not, but that'll be figured out later. The issue is he's definitely Trump is driving NATO to spend more money on defense. Good. He's spending more money on defense for the United States. That's good. He's got a great team around him. And those that weren't great, they tend to leave. That's good. But he will not say a tough word against Putin at all. He'll take shots at Rocket Man in North Korea. Jeff Sessions gets tougher language as the Attorney General than Vladimir Putin. Why? I'm not going to jump to some conclusion that it's criminal or corrupt, but it's unsettling when you have a leader as dangerous as Vladimir Putin, an American president that doesn't seem to. He actually hasn't even responded to the Putin speech. I don't understand it. I'm not going to try to speculate, but it's a concern.
You let the Pentagon do it, but anyway, you've raised a lot of interesting moral questions, and I think as Christians, what do we do? And we need to keep in mind, if the early church could pray for the Caesars that were persecuting them, how much more should we be praying? And praying for the Christians in Russia, praying for Russian leadership, Chinese leadership, on our own leadership. We need wisdom now more than ever. Well, Joel's book is called The Kremlin Conspiracy. You can find it wherever books are sold. And thanks again for being with us.
Great to be with you, Gordon. Thank you.
Terry, over to you.
Well, up next, his drug use led to a life-threatening stroke.
All I remember is I went through my closet door head first, and it felt like I was being electrocuted.
Find out how he recovered and what he says gave him a better high than drugs. Don't go away. Trouble always seemed to find Ron Larson, and Ron wasn't one to say no. After high school, Ron developed a deadly meth addiction and spent time in prison for burglary. Though he wanted to get clean, the drugs had a hold on his mind and body, until a church elder brought Ron a one-way ticket across the country.
So growing up, I was in Bellflower, California. We lived with our mother, me and my brother. Had our parents divorced when I was only 5. 7th grade, 8th grade, we started getting into a lot of trouble. And our mom, she worked really hard, 2 different jobs. When the police started bringing us home, she reached the point where she had enough, and she made a phone call to our father, who's a Los Angeles County Sheriff, and said, come get the boys, I can't handle them anymore. My father, he went to Vietnam at 18 years old. He was a platoon sergeant in the Marine Corps, and after the Marines, he became a Los Angeles County Sheriff. He was very strict, very aggressive. I kind of pushed away from it, and I continued down a path that wasn't good or healthy. My high school years, we started smoking pot and we were drinking. I left home at 17 years old. I had a really good job right out of high school, so I left home and moved in with a friend, and we started doing a little bit of cocaine, I never really liked that. It wasn't till a few years later when methamphetamine flooded Los Angeles and we started doing that, and it would take me to a different place where I didn't even think about nothing, and I was just numb. That day kind of changed my whole life. I really started spiraling out of control. I started using needles, and eventually that led to me losing my job. I met a guy and we were robbing like off-road shops. We were like taking welders and just really expensive tools and stuff and selling them. I finally got busted for residential burglary, and I had some assaults, and along the way I'd racked up under the influence, possession, stuff like that. But I got a 3-year prison sentence. In 2005, a guard was killed in Chino prison, and I was there at the time. We went on a 3-month lockdown, and it was there that I met a skinhead that had given his life to the Lord, and it was this guy's mission. Every single day he would come to my cell and, Ron, you gotta come with me, come to me. It's so real, you gotta believe me. And he talked me into going to chapel one night, and it was at that point that I started reading the Bible, and things really started sticking out. That we need a savior, and that nobody's perfect, and nobody ever will be perfect. The only perfect one was Jesus Christ. It was after that trip to prison that when I got out, I wasn't allowed back to a number of sober living homes that I was living at, and my parole officer had me wait in his office. And after about 7-8 hours, he came out and he said, Ron, I got something for you. What do you think about a Christian men's home? And it hit me like a cold wave. I was going to church, I got baptized, and that was at an all-black church named the Shield of Faith in Pomona, California. I ended up finishing my parole. I stayed clean for 2 years, was going to church. Still really hadn't conquered a lot of my issues with the drug. My foundation was in sand, so a storm came, and when it did, I relapsed. Just like the Bible says, it's worse than it was before. It only took a couple months before I was using needles again, and I'd gotten so bad that I had a minor stroke. I was up for, I think it was 9 days. All I remember is I went through my closet door head first, and it felt like I was being electrocuted, like throughout my whole body. And I went to one of the elders in the church, and I explained to him what happened and told him that I needed to go to Maine. I knew of this program in Maine called Seven Oaks. I needed to do something drastic because I was gonna die. I was really scared. They actually bought me a ticket. It was like 2 days. They said, you need to be ready to go in 2 days. I'd never been to the East Coast. I'm with 24 guys. There's 8 guys in one room, and we worked hard, and it was just Bible, 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 learning the Bible. And they kept emphasizing on it. What I needed was a relationship with the Lord. A relationship. You gotta get to know Jesus. You have to know him, and it can't be a one-way relationship. A few months into it, and I knew I really needed to get everything out of me and put on Christ. I remember the first time I ever cried during worship, and just really intense feelings that I was used to getting in other ways. I was getting through the Bible, and I was getting at church during the music. And I remember the first time that I really felt that the Lord spoke to me in a Bible study, and it gave me chills. It felt better than any high that I've ever gotten off of drugs. And the best thing about the Lord is he works from the inside out. If I would have went to a secular drug rehab and got clean, I may have gotten clean from drugs, but I would still have that hate, that anger, all that stuff that originally led me to drugs still in me. It's the only cure is the restoration from Christ. I want people to know that no matter how far down the road, the wrong road that we go down, that we can always turn around and repent. No matter what we've done, how bad we were, where we're at in life, the Lord is always there with open arms to meet us.
Boy, what Ron said is so true. You can never be too dead for a resurrection. And everybody who comes to Christ sincerely has an opportunity for a new beginning, for a start over. I mean, where else do you get that in life? No matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, you have an opportunity to start over. But beyond that, in addition to the start over, you have an opportunity for healing of all the things that have taken you down the wrong paths over the years. Everything. It doesn't usually happen in the snap of a finger, but being with Jesus, in Jesus, living for him and letting him live in you is a process. It's a day-to-day journey. It's a relationship, and it grows as you grow. It grows as it goes on. So today, I don't know what it is that you're struggling with in your life. I don't know whether you've had addiction issues or some other struggle in your life. There's nothing that can keep you from the love of God except your unwillingness to come. He says that all are invited. So today his arms are stretched out to you. That's what the cross was all about. His arms stretched out for you and me so that no matter where we were or what we've been through, we could come to him and be forgiven and start over, empowered to live differently. If you need to pray with someone today, our number's toll free. It's 1-800-700-7000. Don't wait another day. Come to him now. Gordon?
And here's a word from Colossians for you. I encourage you to really meditate on this one. For by him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created through him and for him. Meditate on that today and be encouraged in the Lord. All things were made by him. That includes you. God bless you. We'll see you again.